this bad boy that I showed you just now. Is your camera good? Do you like where you...
Yeah, I repositioned it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, a little drop here and there will help.
Oh, this is so much heavier.
The real deal.
Yeah. Let's see.
I can share it to Brothers of Belts.
Good morning, everybody. If you are joining us, welcome. We are going to get started, and we'll give it 2 or 3 minutes. We'll start a little bit late today, but that's all right. We went live once, and then Cole pointed out that I had the wrong subject line or whatever you want to call it. I didn't change the redraw belt giveaway thing, so I thought, yeah, I better change that. Otherwise, that might be A, false advertising, and B, it might make you guys think that I'm drawing for this bad boy, which I'm not. This is more just a tease. So appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Again, we're going to start a little bit later today, but as I mentioned in a prior post, I'm in Facebook jail. I told Cole I think it's because I shared a Twitter link. I don't think Facebook likes that. So I'm prevented from sharing in any groups for, I think, a week. So that means I can't share this podcast with anybody, but that's okay. Again, if you're just joining us, thanks for tuning in. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We have not officially started yet. We're going to get started in about another minute, maybe 2 minutes. Got a lot to talk about today. A lot to vent about, I should say. If you are joining us, let us know how your morning's going. We do our best to try to read most, if not all, of your guys' comments and thoughts and everything while we're on the air, so to speak. So 9:01 our time. We'll give it another minute. Tell you what, if you're on the stream right now, can you do me a favor and just say hi or just say something? I want to make sure that our restream. Okay, we're good. Hey Thomas, how are you? How are we doing, buddy? Yeah, I just want to make sure that anytime we start using our new Restream platform that we're using, I want to make sure that all the features of it are working. But looks like we're doing okay today. So I'll tell you what. Hey, Craig, we're just going to get rolling. We are live. It is Thursday morning, March the 12th. This is the Going Broadway podcast. We are on episode number 15. I am Alex. Cole is here. Cole, what's going on?
Oh, you know, the same old. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Cole made a good observation this morning. Whenever we went live, he noticed that I hadn't changed my subject topic, heading, whatever you want to call it, it still said redraw for belt giveaway, and I thought I better change that. So if you saw a separate video saying that we went live this morning, we in fact did, but then I had to change it because I didn't want you guys to think that we were giving away another belt. Not just yet. As you can see, I am holding an IWGP United States Championship belt. This may or may not be the belt we're giving away, but to be determined. This is more just a tease, so to speak, but we will be doing our next belt giveaway. I want to clarify how we're handling that. Brian, hey, how we doing? Paul, good morning. Just to clarify how we're handling that, because I have had questions. We're going to do our next belt giveaway either once our Facebook page hits 2,000 likes or once our Twitter page hits 1,000 follows. It's going to be whichever comes first. So if I were you guys, I would like the page and follow the Twitter because we're going to base the giveaway off whichever happens first. So if you're one of the first 2,000 likes and that happens before we get to 1,000 followers on Twitter, those 2,000 people are going to be entered into the belt giveaway. If we hit 1,000 follows on Twitter before we get to 2,000 likes on Facebook, then it's just going to be those 1,000 people that are entered into the belt giveaway. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's going to be based on one or the other, not both. So like our Facebook page, follow our Twitter, and more to come there. So we got lots to cover today. And obviously, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because it seems like this is what dominates headlines regardless of what channel you're watching on TV. You could be watching the news. You could be watching sports. You could be it's dominating whatever social media you're on. But this coronavirus, man, it's like taken off within the next week, at least as far as headlines go. I'll try to be as biased. Is that the right word? I'll try to be as impartial as possible in sharing my views on it. In fact, I'll just be real quick, and this will be like my only quote-unquote statement on it. I think it's just the flu, guys. I think it's just another version of the flu. Wash your hands. And I think it's pointless and senseless that we're going to such drastic measures to cancel sporting events and have sporting events in empty arenas and yada, yada, yada. So that's just my only thoughts on that. I get that it's really affected people, at least that are of an older age. I get it. But I think that's just when you say, if you're an elderly individual, use caution when attending public events, when gathering with hundreds of people, however you want to phrase it. William, good morning. I don't know. The reason I bring this up is because obviously one of the main wrestling headlines lately is, will WrestleMania be canceled? Will WrestleMania be rescheduled? Will WrestleMania be moved? I'm seeing lots and lots of rumors by the minute. But before I go any further, Cole, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, I'm kind of with you on it. There are plenty of things out there that can get you sick, that can get you down for the count. I don't think this is something that we need to just shut down life in general to proceed with caution. There are things you can do to stay healthy, and I don't think staying home or not doing this or that is going to change that. It's also a virus. I mean, it's not something that you're going to catch and keep for the rest of your life. It's something that goes through your system. It comes out. The average age of someone dying from this is 81. The survival rate right now of it is 98%.
Yeah, last I saw it was 97.6 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, it's. I think it's just over the top. As a sports fan, I can't believe that the NBA is suspending their season over it. I can't believe that the XFL is going to suspend their season over it.
Really?
Yeah, I just read that
I didn't see that.
That it's rumored that they're getting ready to make the announcement. NHL is about to decide on theirs. NCAA is playing in empty arenas. Like, come on, guys. We haven't had that many. I wouldn't call it an outbreak, as more of we've had a few people get it compared to our population.
I mean, I understand from this perspective that so the reason I'm seeing the reason they've taken so much precaution is because they being like scientists and doctors and such, don't know enough about it yet to where they're viewing it from a percentage standpoint. So I read somewhere that it's like, like we mentioned already, it's like 2.5 to 3% of people that get this are dying. And I'm not trying to make light of that, guys. I mean, regardless of who is involved, who gets it, who doesn't get it, whoever contracts it, it's a big deal if it affects someone and it's an even bigger deal, obviously, if that person doesn't survive it. The point I'm getting at, though, is it is as if someone caught the flu. I mean, literally, more people from a number standpoint are dying from the flu, but it's not as high a percentage. It's like 0.005% of people that get the flu are dying, or something like that. That's not accurate, but it's in the hundreds of percent of people that contract the flu die from it. The point I'm getting at, though, is I don't think this is going to be any different than whatever the last big thing was, West Nile virus,
swine flu,
Ebola. SARS stuff. I think this is being blown way.
Media likes to do that.
Agreed. It has already been blown way out of proportion. It's not being blown out of proportion. It's gone way past it. And I think the tipping point was when the NBA last night, just out of nowhere, canceled the season just because one guy he tested positive for it. But from what I understand, if I read this correctly, he had already gotten over it. He had tested positive for it, but he had felt better to where he possibly was going to even play that night. So to me, I'm just floored by this, guys. I mean, and you can share your opinions with us if you want on the stream. Jamie, hey, how we doing? He says rescheduled and rebooked. Hopefully, it's just like H1N1 was a few years ago, except the media has blown it out of proportion. 100% agree. Jerry says with flights being stopped out of Europe, that will affect Mania. It definitely will. The percentage is the same percentage that died during the Spanish flu back in 1918, which is why it is alarming to people that study viruses. I don't know, guys. Here's something that takes me back a little bit, and I'm not going to get into conspiracies and all that stuff. We actually have a podcast that's done out of this studio that addresses conspiracies. Maybe they'll cover this. I don't know. But my wife told me last night that someone actually said in a book or in a magazine or some kind of publication back in the 80s or 90s, and I don't know if my wife's watching this right now. She's actually she's fighting a cold herself, not coronavirus. At least we don't think. But she said that back in the 80s or 90s that some sort of publication actually predicted that there would be a coronavirus outbreak in 2020. Quote unquote predicted. And again, we didn't talk much about like what publication it was, and again, I'm not going to go into much more about my thoughts or beliefs or conspiracies, whatever. I just think that, back to the topic at hand, I think it's just been blown way out of proportion. I think, and we'll bring this back home to talking about wrestling, I think let's put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if they reschedule WrestleMania. I would be very surprised if they canceled it altogether, because that would cost them, tens of millions of dollars.
I'm sorry, this one comment made me laugh. It says, if it takes Tom Hanks, though, we riot.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, Jamie, I agree. Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors. He's so good.
I just think if they cancel it, or if they just straight up cancel it and don't do anything with it, it's a huge mistake.
Oh, 100% agree.
It's a huge mistake. Just go through with it. Like, so far, you've gone to every other show and nothing's happened.
Yeah, agreed. Again, you're just as likely to contract the flu. And I think the problem is it's just there's a flu vaccination, but to my knowledge, there's not a vaccination for coronavirus or whatever. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but from what I've read, I'm going to keep saying that because I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know anybody that's had it. But again, from what I've read, you're going to hear that statement a lot. From what I've read, the flu has let's put it this way, it has a worse toll on your body than coronavirus does. Coronavirus is like what you have like a basically cold symptoms, maybe some like uh, struggling to breathe maybe a little bit, but unless you're an elderly individual, it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It can, like, the symptoms could be so subtle that it's actually been said that allegedly millions of Americans could have it or have already had it and just not known it.
Right.
So Jerry says rumors are going around they're moving SmackDown to the Performance Center. I read that this morning. That they've not confirmed that. Actually, WWE came out and denied that. I don't see what the difference in that would be. You just have less people, sure, but I mean, it's still. I
mean, NXT was at the Performance Center last night.
Well, I get that. Here's the point I'm making.
Full Sail closed their stuff, though. That's probably why.
Yeah. Here's the point I'm making. So if you have it at the Performance Center, that means unless they have a quick turnaround time in terms of the people at the Performance Center from a maintenance standpoint, like going around and cleaning everything or whatever, you're going to have people that were there for NXT and then people that are there for SmackDown. So it's like within a 48 hours time span, you will have had just as many people as that would have been at SmackDown tomorrow. And I mean, again, from what I've read, I'm going to say that a lot. From what I've read, the virus can live on just, desks and papers and furniture and whatever for up to 3 days, I think. If I'm incorrect on that and you guys have the correct information, please correct me. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know. And I think inevitably that's why we're having this discussion to open up the show, is because I don't know. I don't know, and I'm confused as to all of this hoopla going on. I mean, empty arenas for March Madness. Again, we mentioned they canceled the rest of the NBA season until further notice. NHL, I wouldn't be surprised if they follow suit. XFL, Cole just mentioned they might be doing that.
Which could give us an indication on where Vince McMahon stands.
Well, exactly. I mean, they've said that Vince McMahon has said that, they're not going to cancel WrestleMania, but it might not be up to him. And the city officials of Tampa might just say, sorry, we're going to have to
WrestleMania in the Performance Center
or something. But you got to look at it from the standpoint of the city officials for Tampa, because if they cancel it, they obviously view this enough to go to such drastic measures to cancel it, because not only will this make WWE money, any city that holds a WrestleMania, it makes them money too.
Right.
So if it's serious enough that city officials are going to cancel it, I don't know. Here's how I see this happening. The city of Tampa is probably going to have negotiations with WWE and say, can we reschedule this? Because we want you guys to have it. We want you guys to make money, but we want our city to make money. I think WWE officials are just going to say, no, sorry, we want this to go on as scheduled, and if it can't, then we're going to move it elsewhere. And I've actually read, and I want to pull up the article real quick. At first, it was a rumor, and it's still technically a rumor, but it's a rumor that has picked up steam. I'm going to get this article real quick. Bear with me just a second. I'm typing with one hand here. I can't find it. But whatever website I saw it on, there was a rumor that had picked up steam that Saudi Arabia was going to pay WWE tens of millions of dollars to move WrestleMania to Saudi Arabia. But here's what's conflicting about that. I'm pretty sure that Saudi Arabia closed their borders a couple weeks ago. I don't know that for a fact. So I'm not trying to spread rumors. I'm not trying to bring further legitimacy to those rumors because we have little to no insider knowledge, just for the record. So, but I don't know. Again, you're going to hear that a lot today. I don't know. So, what are some of you guys saying? Rumors. Jerry says rumors are going. I read that already. Jonathan says, I'm waiting to see if Atlanta takes any action, canceling, postponing live events and the effects that could have on the Crockett Cup. Yeah, I agree. The Crockett Cup was actually something we were going to talk about on our last show on Monday, and I had it pulled up to maybe talk about it a little today. Stumbling over words. Jamie says, I live in a small town in North Carolina. Went to Walmart last night for a few things. Completely sold out of bleach, cleaning, and all sanitizing products. I'm not surprised. Jamie also says, I could see Vince countering with, we can have them work in surgical masks, pal. Ian says, I'm not against postponing Mania. They have to do what is right for the general population. Ian, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to shove my opinions down anyone's throat, but I guess I'm of the mindset of it's just like contracting a common cold. I get that they don't know, doctors and scientists don't know enough about it yet, but it's only affected people that are above what I read. It's only affected people in a drastic way, and I don't know how you quantify drastic, but anyone that's over the age of like 75 or something like that, or someone over or people over the age of 65 or something like that have a pre-existing condition. My thought on this, and this, I'll try to have this be the last thing I say about it that relates to my opinion on it. If you're going to have an event, just make a statement or some kind of precautionary, I don't know, to fans that say, again, if you're over the age of 60, just be aware of your surroundings, wash your hands, just be aware that this has affected people of your age bracket, so to speak. I don't think that's being, what's the word I'm looking for? Not racist, obviously, but
discriminatory.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's being discriminatory to say if you're an elderly individual, just be advised that this is a escalating situation, that it has affected people of your age. However, if you take precautionary measures and keep yourself clean, basically, wash your hands, making sure that you're bathing or showering daily, that sort of thing, then you should be fine. But at the same time, you could contract the flu and it could be worse on your body. Again, from what I've read. So, Jonathan says, I wonder if Vince would move Mania to a state that has had no confirmed cases like West Virginia.
Sounds like he might live in West Virginia.
Well, he does say that. The problem is, I think if they're going to move Mania, they're going to move it to where they're going to have it on a platform that they're going to have it in an arena where they can have at least 50,000 people. Jamie says, "Oh no, Tom Hanks is 63."
He's right under that age. As long as he has no pre-existing condition, he'll be out.
I want to read Ian's comment real quick. I work in healthcare. Yes, you're right that it affects older peeps harder than young peeps, but it still has the potential to do some serious damage to peeps in their 30s on up, as well as kids. If that's the case, I want to see documentation of that. From what I've read, there's nothing to back that up. Ian, if you're in healthcare, I will take your word for it for the time being, but I've not seen anything that's done serious damage to anyone I've not seen where it's done any serious damage to anyone under the age of like 60. If it has, I will stand corrected. That's totally fine. I don't mind being wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last. So, but then those younger ones go home and visit grandma and grandpa, possibly infecting them, which is true. But again, that's when I feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse here. That's when you just say, again, guys, in my opinion, it's no worse than the flu. Obviously, I'm venting a little bit because I think that having sporting events in empty arenas and canceling them altogether, I'm a sports fan. I get it. I said I'm sharing from an unbiased standpoint. I am a little biased because I'm a sports fan. But I think this has just been blown way out of proportion. So, that being said, back to wrestling. So, a couple topics I did want to touch on.
Ric Flair needs to stay home.
Ric Flair needs to stay home regardless of coronavirus.
Oh, man, that was funny. I'm sorry.
No, it's funny. I think Ric Flair needs to stay home regardless of coronavirus.
Hogan, keep all the legends at home. All right? If you're a legend, don't go to Mania. That's funny.
So a couple things I wanted to touch on. So one of the members of AOP may have suffered an injury on Raw. Now, obviously, this is big news if WrestleMania is not canceled. If WrestleMania is canceled or rescheduled, I think this is kind of a moot point. But it is a bicep injury. Again, the key word here is reportedly. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it could be a big deal if WrestleMania is canceled or rescheduled, but if it's not, then he'd have more time to recuperate. So, what are some other things? British Bulldog was announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. Again, if there's a ceremony. It's amazing how many stories are related to WrestleMania. What else I want to mention here? We mentioned the travel ban already for 30 days, I think is what it said. I thought there was one other story I was wanting to mention. Oh, duh. Okay, so if you've been following Free the Elite and the Being the Elite series, Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks did their thing where they tried to essentially literally bury Matt Hardy. They did a funny thing. They did a funny thing in the video where Matt Hardy says, "I want you guys to bury me," and then one of the Jackson brothers says, "You mean like book you poorly in matches?" And I just thought that was just little things like that he do in these videos are just hilarious and brilliant at the same time. But it's just part of the storyline to try to extract this Zenith character or whatever out of Matt Hardy's body. And it's just, I don't fully understand it, but I don't feel like I have to because it's still funny. And if our friend Megan's watching this, maybe she can shed more light on it. She's a Matt Hardy fan. But unfortunately, and fortunately, Matt Hardy did not debut last night. But I'm okay with that because obviously it gets most people, if not everybody, to tune into AEW next week because I think it's inevitable at this point. Now, kind of tying into that, there's a rumor that Matt Hardy could work multiple companies but have a different character on each of them. So, like, he could be Broken Matt on AEW. He could be like the Hardy Boys version of Matt Hardy on like Ring of Honor. He could be Money Matt on NWA.
That was actually his response to a Twitter like fan thing asking a question of where he was going or something like that. He like posted that he could, go to any of these and be a different persona.
Right. And I think that'd be a great idea. I think that's a brilliant creative move on his part. So, let's see. WWE signed Rob Gronkowski. I have mixed feelings on that. I just
Wait, what? I didn't hear this.
really.
I haven't heard
You
this.
did not know this. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
WWE has signed Rob Gronkowski.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. This was this was yesterday or the day before. Yeah, this was yesterday.
What?
This was yesterday.
I mean, it makes sense, but like, because I know the relationship, but oh man, that's funny.
So that's more of a we'll see what happens kind of thing. So, all right, let's go ahead and recap the events of yesterday evening, if you will.
Let's start with AEW because Williams over here jumping
Jumping
ahead of the line, man.
We'll just start with AEW. So, so the big headline of the night is, they've got Jericho and Guevara against Hangman and a mystery partner. I'll jump ahead slightly, but without a spoiler, even though it's already aired, so you can watch it if you want. I was rather disappointed in the reveal of the mystery partner, but we'll get there. So Hangman and the Bucks kick off the show. Again, they go back and forth about who the tag partner is going to be. Basically says it's still a mystery. Then we have the Ortiz and Cody match. I feel like, and I don't mean to jump around or jump ahead. I was kind of disappointed with this episode of AEW. I mean, the matches were just okay. And again, I think that speaks to how good Dynamite's been. I don't know. I wasn't really into the matches as much as I have been on previous Dynamites. I mean, the crowd was good live. I mean, that's how it came across on TV, which is always good. The opening match did have the debut of Lance Archer, a very underwhelming debut. I mean, there was no build to it whatsoever. I mean, they're literally just walking through the crowd. Jake Roberts and Lance Archer is right by his side, and it was just like
they did tease him coming in
to
the ring.
Well, they
teased him coming out of the crowd and going to attack him, and Jake told him, hold on. The thing about this particular segment or match is that they had like 4 different storylines flowing through one match.
I agree, but I'm okay with the integrating the storylines. I'm okay, or blending them, I should say. I'm totally okay with that. There were 2 different spots on this program where it was just like the reveal of Lance Archer, and then the reveal of actually 3, the reveal of the mystery partner, and then we'll mention the third as we go through the recap. It just felt like they could have done a better job at like teasing or building or something like that, and it was just kind of like the payoff was just kind of it kind of fell flat.
It could have been. I definitely agree that the Lance Archer specifically could have been a little bit more explosive as far as he could have came in, attacked Cody, could have gotten his face, something could have happened more than just standing there. But again, we're aware that AEW is more of a slow build kind of company. A lot of storylines are built slowly, and they leave a lot of kind of balls in the air in a sense too, of the fact that they could do this, and this if this doesn't pan out.
Right.
And so it didn't shock me that they didn't like push him out there. In fact, we've actually seen them do this a lot, where they just bring an AEW guy into the crowd somewhere to sit there and watch a match and do something, and not really do anything. And so, I thought that was an interesting way to bring him in, especially when you had Jake come out and cut such a great promo last week.
Yeah, exactly.
And then come out and be like, okay, well, we're going to stare at you tonight.
Yeah, to me, that's why it fell flat. And I don't necessarily think you could have matched Jake Roberts' promo from last week, but you could have at least done a better job at the client reveal, so to speak. Because and one of our listeners actually said, Jerry said, I expected more from the client debut, just because again, it just felt really underwhelming. Again, I know they announced Lance Archer as part of their roster. I get it. But you still didn't know who his client was until they started walking through the crowd. So it could have been a promo where just kind of spitballing an idea. After the match, Cody does a promo. Jake Roberts comes out, confronts him again, and then you have Lance Archer come out from behind and beat Cody down. Something like that. Now, I get you couldn't do that because they're building to the War Games, or not War Games, I'm sorry.
Blood and Guts.
The Blood and Guts match. It'll always be War Games to me, guys. Sorry. The double cage match, that's what I'll call it. I get that they're building towards that, the Elite versus Inner Circle. I get it. But I still think they could have done a better job of the client reveal, so to speak. Jamie says, I liked it. Slow building their first touch instead of hot shotting into the feud, plus fits Jake's mind game mentality. I'm okay with how they handled, if they're going the route of that's how they're revealing him as the client, I'm okay with how they played it off as his first appearance. But again, I feel like they could have done a better job at the reveal itself, if that makes sense. So, nonetheless, Cody gets the win with the figure 4 leg lock. I love how they ended this match because it teases, the submission or surrender aspect of the double cage match. And not to mention, it's kind of it's a shout out to Ric Flair, who is a friend of Arn Anderson's, and Arn Anderson's obviously the coach of Cody. And it kind of plays into that storyline as well because it's like, Arn's this coach. He probably said, okay, let's use the figure 4 and, whatever. At least that's how I took it. But then at the end of the match, they go to the back where you see Nick Jackson. Inner Circle cuts a promo first, but then they cut to Nick Jackson, who's on the floor right by them, crushed under a garage door, bleeding from the mouth, and
a tease at blood.
Yeah. And they sold this really well. I think how they did this spot, this promo, whatever you want to call it, everything from the wrestlers to the announce team, did a fantastic job of selling the seriousness of this. So, it was good storytelling. I think that's one of AEW's strong points, which is why, again, it leaves the client debut thing kind of underwhelming. But again, I feel like I'm kind of spoiled by AEW in that regard. I expect more as far as storyline aspect, but I'll have to do my best as far as giving them a pass every once in a while. So, they load Nick Jackson up in the ambulance. Cody and Matt go with him, and so you think that Cody and Matt are gone for the night. Nick obviously is. Now, I'll save that topic till once we're done doing our recap. But I'm curious to know your thoughts as far as how they're going to handle the Nick Jackson situation. We'll talk about that after we do the recap. So then we have Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida against Nyla Rose and Bea Priestley. This was a surprisingly good match, in my opinion. It wasn't great, but it was still a good match where they teased a couple of times where Nyla Rose might actually get pinned. And I thought that would have made sense creatively, just to kind of tease, okay, Nyla Rose was pinned by, I thought Hikaru Shida was going to get the pin on her just to kind of tease the women's title storyline. Inevitably, she didn't. Nyla Rose got the pin on Shida, so it was reversed. And then while the announcers are putting over how good of a team Rose and Priestley are, you don't see Priestley take a shot on Nyla Rose. The camera cuts back to where Nyla Rose is already down and Bea Priestley is standing over her. And so, bad job on the camera guys or whoever's in the back in the truck saying, hey, cut to this shot. They didn't do it in time. But I think it's a good tease because it adds intrigue to the women's division. If you guys aren't familiar with Bea Priestley, she's been on AEW before. She works in Japan mostly. But and the announcers kind of touched on this during the match. She has really improved since her last appearance on AEW. What were your thoughts on the match?
I thought the match in itself was good. I don't know how I felt about the B Priestley like tease or I guess it was just AEW trying to show that it's anyone's division or that they're not opposed to putting anyone in a title picture if the crowd's in it, if there's backing behind it. But I just don't. There are so many other women in that division right now that I think I would rather see in a title picture with Nyla, and I just don't know if teasing B Priestley is one of the ones that I would be like, okay, yeah.
I agree she shouldn't be in the title picture,
especially with her being a heel. I'm not against like heel on heel storylines or face on face storylines, but with her being a heel and not a very over heel against Nyla, who is an over heel right now, like I just it fell flat for me. I thought that it was just kind of like, eh.
Well, the thing with B Priestley is, and I'm trying to read a couple comments. I'm going to backtrack just slightly. Jamie says possible Lance isn't client while Cody is watching Archer, Brody Lee, or Broken Hardy strikes. It could potentially be that. It could be that Jake has multiple clients. You know, it could be they could be building another stable. We don't know, but that's a good point. William says B is dating Will Ospreay. Yeah, for those of you that don't know that, they are B and Will Ospreay are dating, and I think that has helped B Priestley in the ring. I know Will Ospreay trains with her and stuff like that. So I agree that B shouldn't be in the title picture right now. But like you said, I think it adds to the women's division if she's going to be more of a fixture on AEW. If she's not going to be more of a fixture on AEW, I think this was kind of pointless. I don't see what direction they would want to go or could go.
It just didn't make sense to me. She's not even ranked, you know, as far as...
Yeah.
Like right now, the ranking thing is kind of upsetting me because I feel like we don't go off of it at all still. I just feel, especially in the women's division, you know, like I'm just looking at it, I was like, why even tease her coming after Nyla or you know, because now they're going to have Nyla versus her probably. And maybe it's just to feed Nyla more people to beat.
Could be.
One-on-one to try to build her up before she gets beaten by somebody. Who knows? But it just fell flat. The match was good.
100%. The match was good.
But the thing afterwards with her attacking Nyla, I was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah. But then this goes to probably my favorite part of the show, the Christopher Daniels Dark Order parody
what
video.
What a great promo.
This was fantastic. I mean, I'm sitting in my living room and I've got my 3-year-old. He was watching off and on with me, but I'm legit laughing, and every time I laugh, he starts cracking up too. So it's kind of a twofold thing, but because anytime he laughs, it's funny for me, and obviously, yeah, you guys get it. But
the Dark Order sucks.
The Dark Order sucks. This was so well done. This might be AEW's best video package to date. I mean, if you guys have not seen this, you can probably go back and watch it on YouTube. But it's basically it's a mock version of the Join the Dark Order promo videos that they've been seeing.
It's also a side of Christopher Daniels that I wouldn't mind seeing more of.
Well, he kind of has his comedic side on being the Elite. So I've seen this before. But this just added a whole new element to it, a whole new level. I thought it was great.
It was great. I mean, literally one of the best promos that AEW so far has cut. I'm like as a brand, it was up there. It was good. It kept the storyline alive, and honestly, it was a bounce back for me for Christopher Daniels. Like I kind of was over him. I just was he kind of got stale to me, especially since he hasn't really been wrestling that much with the fact that Scorpio Sky and Kazarian or whoever, whatever you want to call him, Kaz. Them being the tag team that's kind of been wrestling more, Christopher Daniels just kind of got stale to me. And so that promo, especially with all the effects, him talking in his SCU gimmick and then switching back to the suit and tie, you know, it just was great. It kind of story told some too. And so I thought it was a great bounce back for me as a Christopher Daniels supporter or fan.
Yeah, I just realized I totally forgot to hit record on these buttons over here. That's all right. It'll at least be on our Facebook channel, or our Facebook page. But if you guys try to go back and listen to this on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I should say, or Google Podcasts, I don't think it'll be on there. So that's all right. Nonetheless, Jamie says Daniels is brilliant. Wish AEW was around in his prime.
Agreed. I mean, Impact was decent at the time, at least, so we got to see some of that, but AEW is a little bit more magnified than that now, so I definitely agree that I wish there was a bigger platform for him.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm sure this is probably awesome to look at. I got to put this thing down. This thing's heavy. Just 1 second. Okay, that's better. So the next match we have Butcher Blade and MJF against Jurassic Express. You kind of knew ahead of time that MJF's team was going to get the win. It wasn't a surprise there. I was, again, same thing. I was kind of left underwhelmed with the match itself as I was most matches on the card. MJF and Butcher and Blade get the win. Like I said, you kind of knew ahead of time that was going to happen. And then apparently, I missed this. I think after the match, I think it's probably getting my 3-year-old ready for bed or something like that. But there's a Darby Allin vignette where
it was a little dark.
Was it?
It's basically him wearing a Chris Jericho mask that has Chris Jericho all bloodied, and he's putting what looked like a body that had Sammy Guevara's face, I believe, on it.
Interesting.
Into a body bag, tied it to a pickup truck that had R.I.P. Sammy, I think, on it. And he's like driving the body bag with a rope attached. He's like dragging it through the grass through like a forest. I mean, it was pretty dark from what I saw. It went so fast that it was hard for me to see all like the little Easter eggs. I need to go back and like kind of read it or rewatch it. But it literally is him dragging a body bag through a forest.
It kind of makes me wonder how they're gonna. I'll tell you what. We'll. I keep wanting to go to a specific topic, but I want to save it till after we've done our recap.
Jamie said the bunny is the only good part of the Butcher and the Blade. That's pretty funny.
So then we have a close second on my favorite part of the night. So, and ironically enough, comes during the Britt Baker segment
because it was terrible until this part happened.
It was. So, I'll just cut right to that part. So the promo up till the part I'm going to mention was just the same it has been. It was just it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good at all. I mean, it was below average is how I will say it. And it's stale too, so that makes it worse. But then Big Swole comes out, confronts her, and basically says, she shouldn't even be hiding Shivani. She shouldn't be hiding behind Shivani, and like newsflash, he doesn't even like her or something like that. Then Shivani says something like he's like kayfabe or something like that, which I thought was funny. But then it got even better. Baker takes a shot at Big Swole and says, the only person who knows anything about wrestling in her house is her boyfriend, who is Cedric Alexander.
It's actually husband.
Well, I'm getting there. But then Swole corrects her and says, well, I'm married. Holds up her wedding ring and says, I'm married, baby.
I thought that was hilarious.
I'm surprised that didn't get more of a reaction from the crowd. But, like, I'm sitting in my living room. I actually, out loud, I go, oh, man, that was so good. That was so good.
For those of you who don't know, Britt Baker is dating Adam Cole.
Yeah. I just wish that promo probably would have been my favorite part of the night if the crowd would have reacted more to it. I'm surprised that they didn't.
And maybe they did live, and it was just hard to hear from where they were standing.
I don't know, but
it was. And to be honest with you, I had no idea Big Swole was married to him, or I had to look it up last night.
Yeah, I just found out about that like last week,
which brings interesting intrigue that if he's getting treated the way he is right now in WWE, where he's going to be headed, because that's a pretty easy pick.
And AEW would use him right.
What's funny about this promo is that it was terrible. I mean, it was absolutely terrible until that's what saved it. And what's funny is Bleacher Report actually gives this promo a grade of an A.
Oh, I bet.
And I was like, all because all they can talk about, though, is the husband and boyfriend joke.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that 30 seconds was the segment. I mean, that was what made that promo. It was.
I like Big Swole. I think she kind of gives me like a Bianca Belair kind of attitude vibe. I think she's talented in the ring. And I'm kind of excited for this match to take place because Britt Baker is at least good in the ring. She's terrible in the mic, but at least on right now she is. So I kind of like where this storyline's now going finally. And excited to see where that match goes. But
Agreed. Okay, so then we have our another 6-man tag match.
AEW, the land of 6-man.
Exactly. And I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're building stables. They're eventually going to have, I'm sorry, guys, they're eventually going to have a 6-man tag title. It's going to happen. And the reason being is, because A, they can, because they've got so many stables that can make it work. And B, because it's something unique compared to WWE. I get that Ring of Honor has them. I get that, NWA has had them in the past. But they're still going to do it. New Japan has them. I get it. But I like the idea of having it. And I think AEW has the roster and the resources to do it right. But that's just it. When they do it, they've got to do it right.
Right. I'm not against 6-man. It's just right now it seems like every show they're like, hey, we need to fill like a 20-minute window here. Go ahead and put a 6-man tag match there. And it's like every week there's at least 2, if not 3, 6-man tag matches.
Well, I don't know if it's every week. I mean, there's definitely at least
one every
week. There's at least one every week, whether it's on Dynamite or Dark. There's at least one every week. I'm okay with that, especially, I mean, if that's going to be a division. It's no different than having a standard tag division.
Right. That and the fact they have a roster that they want to get everybody out there as much as they can with a smaller schedule.
Right.
One show a week. I get the mind. I'm not dissing it. I just was kind of making a joke that it
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, it is. I mean, it's,
especially when you're putting Joey Janela with Private Party, because I was kind of like, okay, we know Death Triangle's winning.
Yeah. And Jamie makes a good point. I was going to say this. I was going to actually mention this first, and I got sidetracked and forgot. Dusty Rhodes, he was a big supporter of having a 6-man tag title, and obviously Cody is, he wants to be like his father, and there's nothing wrong with that. William says New Japan is known for 6-man tags, which again I mentioned that the Young Bucks were in New Japan. Cody had a stint in New Japan. Kenny was in New Japan. Hangman was in New Japan. So anyone that's in, I guess Hangman's not, he's not an EVP, but nonetheless, I mean, they want to build and capitalize on A, anything that WWE isn't doing, and B, whatever they felt like went over in New Japan or Ring of Honor. So back to Janela and Private Party against Death Triangle. I mean, again, this was another given that it would not have made sense for Death Triangle to lose this match. It would have made 0 sense. So you kind of knew going in that they were going to get the W.
It was a good match.
It was a good match. I expected it to be better just because of the talent involved in the match. And again, I think I'm kind of spoiled in that regard. I guess I should lower my standards a little bit from a week-to-week standpoint. And it doesn't help. I'm still kind of coming off the high that was AEW Revolution being there live, so that kind of factors in as well. So it was a good match. I expected it to be better, but again, notwithstanding, Death Triangle gets the win. Then they do their, I guess what's going to be called their Death Triangle submission. Once the match has ended, they've got all 3 guys on the mat, and then they kind of put them in these like triple armbar,
or like a choke. It was like they were wrapping it around each person's throat.
It was like a combination. I don't think it was supposed to be a choke. I think it was supposed to be like an inverted like sleeper hold type move, but also like an armbar or like a what's the move called? Whatever the stretch move is where they've got his arm back. They're standing up and I don't know. If you guys can help me out, whatever the name of the move is, it's not coming to me right now. but it's like a combination of 3 or 4 different moves all in one. It's like a combination of a sleeper hold, a camel clutch, an arm bar,
It was interesting.
it looked cool, but
Doesn't look like it would hurt. But it looked
yeah,
interesting.
Jamie, camel clutch is not what I'm trying to think of, but it's like a combination of a sleeper hold, camel clutch, like an arm bar type thing, almost like a. Hold on, I'm just gonna look it up. Abdominal stretch. That's kind of what it reminded me of, but obviously it wasn't the abdominal. It was like a bringing the arm around kind of thing, like they do on an abdominal stretch. So it was cool. And then Best Friends and Orange Cassidy come out and kind of break stuff up a little bit, and obviously that will set up their match next week. Another 6-man tag, which is fine. Whatever. If we get Orange Cassidy in the ring, then it's fine.
True.
And then here's another underwhelming part of the night where Dustin Rhodes just comes out and says whether he likes it or not, he's going to be Hangman's partner. If Dustin Rhodes is going to be his partner, you could have just said that to start with. I mean, I get the mess. I
think it's storytelling again. It goes back to Hangman doesn't want anybody that's a Rhodes or an elite person helping him. And so when he comes out to the ring, Dustin's mad because of the attack on Nick, and says, "I don't care if Hangman likes it or not. I'm going out there. I'm his partner." And then Hangman was, when he gets out there, it's kind of like, "I don't want your help.
Yeah,
I don't want you."
Backtracking a little bit, Jamie says it looked like a camel chicken wing. Yeah, it did look like a chicken wing. That's agreed. I mean, so it was like a combination of 5 different moves. So, what I'm getting at though is, if you know that Kenny is not clear to compete because of the broken hand, here's how I see this. You could basically set up to where, okay, Kenny is not clear to compete. He's not going to tag with Nick or Matt Jackson. He's not going to tag with Cody. Just say by default, okay, we're going to tag him with Dustin Rhodes, and you could you already have the storyline in place to say why he's not tagging with anybody else in the Elite. I just think that if you, I get the, let's put it this way, I get why they have the mystery tag partner aspect, because you're going to tease Matt Hardy. I understand that aspect of it, but I also don't know at the same time how you reveal Dustin Rhodes as a mystery tag partner and it not feel underwhelming. Again, I know I'm using that word a lot, but anyway, he says whether he likes it or not, he's gonna be his partner. Here's the next underwhelming part, or I don't know. What's another word for underwhelming? I keep using that word a lot. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. Not disappointing necessarily, but just
I would just say it didn't meet expectations.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. So they basically just said that the exalted one of the Dark Order is going to be revealed next week. They should not have announced that.
I feel like this is a way to build. I agree with you. I would have rathered a surprised or shock or whatever. But I think if you're a fan like we are, anybody watching this is probably a wrestling fan that follows wrestling. What city they're in that night.
Everybody knows what city they're in. Everybody knows who is from that city.
But my theory is this. Everyone now is thinking it's Brody Lee. And I think it goes right back to storytelling. They are trying to get everyone to think Brody Lee is the exalted one. Now, they could be very predictable and it be Brody Lee, but the other side of it could be that it's exactly the opposite. It could be Hardy, it could be somebody else.
So you're thinking it could be somebody else, but Brody Lee makes his debut and maybe is the one to oppose them,
or they,
or they just have him debut differently,
or the exalted one never shows up. Like it's a tease saying, "Hey, the exalted one's going to be there." He never shows up, and Brody Lee comes out and beats up the Dark Order. There are tons of ways that you could spin this. Matt Hardy could show up and beats up the Dark Order. Brody Lee could come out and then Matt Hardy come out and oppose him. It could be a double whammy there. I don't know. There's 1,000 ways to do this, but I feel like AEW is too smart to be that predictable.
Right. And guys, just so you know, I've said this a couple times, and it's totally not a big deal. It's just kind of I want to rehash it a little bit. If you guys wouldn't mind, whenever you're commenting on our video, if you could keep it PG, like keep language out of it, I'd appreciate it. We try to be a as clean oriented show as possible. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. We also don't carry, we don't carry the explicit content tag as far as our show goes. So yeah, if you could keep comments clean, I'd appreciate it. And then we have Jim Ross's sit down with Moxley. It was just a standard promo. It's what you would expected it to be. Moxley essentially says, he knows he's got he knows that the Inner Circle has their match with them Elite Boys, and basically says if you're the Inner Circle, you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on me being Moxley, out of the corner of your eye, or however he phrases it. So
The blind spot.
yeah, exactly. So it was just a standard promo. It's kind of like a time filler.
I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say this. I have been pretty underwhelmed with all of Jon Moxley's promos so far in AEW.
I mean, Moxley is not really known for his mic skills. He's not bad, but he's not great either.
He's known for being unpredictable or whatever. Like the one that was funny was when he was teasing joining the Inner Circle, but so far, overall, I would almost rather him not talk as much as they're trying to get him to right now.
I agreed. Especially, so I don't know how much of what was broadcast on AEW Revolution at the end of the pay-per-view. He did a very, very spontaneous promo at the end of the match and at the end of the card. But again, I don't know how much was broadcasted live, but it was not good. It was very spontaneous. It was just like I don't know. It wasn't great in my opinion. But again, he's not known for his mic skills. So
true.
I just have to give him a pass on it and just keep going. So we have the main event tag match, Jericho and Guevara against Hangman and Dustin. Wasn't a bad match, but it had its usual spots. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. A lot of it was predictable. Hangman and Dustin get the win after Hangman connects with the buckshot lariat on Guevara. And then, of course, as soon as the match is over, there's going to be a big schmoz. Inner Circle comes in and beats them down. They get in the ring, do that. And then, in no particular order, I know that Cody came out.
Kenny came
out.
Matt Jackson.
So it's Kenny that came out first, I think, and then Cody came out.
Then Matt.
And then Matt came out when they were on the stage about ready to give Hangman another shield bomb off the ramp, but did not do so. Matt gets a couple of super kicks in, but then they hit him with the steel chair. They hit Hangman with the steel chair, and Inner Circle is left standing at the end of the program. So with how they ended the show, I mean, they pretty much left everyone in the Elite left laying. I mean, Kenny was left laying. They attacked his wrist or his hand. Cody was left laying. Matt was left laying with the steel chair shot. Hangman was left laying with the steel chair shot. Where was QT Marshall in all this? Because he came down to the ring.
Thank you. I was literally going to say I was going to say that's where it's like the inconsistency in storytelling, right? You have him and Brandy come out to the ring as far as walking Dustin out there, giving him fist pounds and go do your thing. Then he's getting the crap beat out of him. And Cody came all the way back from the hospital and came out. I get that it's a tease for the blood and guts match, but it doesn't make sense. Don't have QT come out at all then.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like don't have him because now he's in the building. He's supposed to have their backs. And what was he eating chips? Like, where was he at? Because one of the things he said is there's nobody there to help them. And I was like, what?
Eating chips.
I was like, QT Marshall came out with him. What do you mean there's no one there? I mean, yeah, sure, he would have came out and got beaten up too, but
that's the point.
have him come out and get easily whopped by Jake Hager. Like, I don't know, but don't have him come out and then be nowhere to be found during that segment.
I just feel bad because so I was talking with Carmine Sabia. For those of you who don't know, he was our winner of our National Heavyweight Championship belt giveaway. I got to talk to him a little bit, and I was telling him about AEW and told him he should watch it because he hasn't watched really much of it, if any at all. I just feel really bad because I plugged it so much, and I feel like that to date this might be Dynamite's worst episode they've had.
It maybe from the standpoint of they had such good build, and this one kind of trickled off. Maybe I wouldn't say it was bad. It was more like it was just average on.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was an average show, and again, that just goes to show how good Dynamite's been. That's why I was telling him, hey, you need to watch this. But being average means that it might have been their worst show from it.
Other than maybe their first couple startup shows that were a little, I think, dry from the standpoint no one really knew who some of these people were.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I'll rephrase. I think this was Dynamite's worst episode since they've gotten off the ground. Yeah. I will say this has been Dynamite's worst episode of 2020 so far, in my opinion.
That's not a bad thing. At some point, it does have to level off, right? Like, especially week-to-week shows. Like, at some point, you don't want to try to keep going so far above the standard for regular weekly episodes.
Agreed.
Because then your big pay-per-views will be hard to top.
Right.
Which is why I'm glad they're doing things like Blood and Guts, which is going to be on a weekly TV, episodic TV slot instead of making that a pay-per-view.
Right.
Because now you have something to build towards still without having to make it a pay-per-view.
Right. So I want to read something real quick, and then I'm going to I want to talk about real quick the topic I was going to bring up earlier. So this is like their storyline update. So after Nick Jackson got stretchered out, taken to a local hospital, AEW posted an update that said Nick was responsive at the hospital, but is ruled out of action indefinitely. So I'll just keep reading. Because there is some speculation Jackson is actually not injured, Nick and his wife are currently expecting their third child, and as noted earlier this month, he missed the Dynamite show in Denver so he could be at home with his wife. It was initially expected he wasn't going to return until after the arrival of the baby, but basically they've done the angle so he was written off TV so he could have family time. So an intriguing turn of events, if you will. Obviously, Nick is not going to be in the Blood and Guts match. Is this a way to insert Darby Allin into that spot because of what happened and because of his promo?
So,
or hold on, or is this where Matt Hardy debuts?
So I'm thinking more Matt Hardy, and the reason why is because of the Free to Delete or the Matt Hardy episodes with them involved right now. Because there's a connection there, I could see Matt, cutting a promo or Matt saying, you know what, I may not have Nick, but I do have something similar. I do have something up my sleeve, or I got some Cody, Kenny, Hangman, don't worry, yeah. I got someone. And I think because of the fact that he's been on Being the Elite, he's been around that group, you could see that being like a big shocker for Blood and Guts. It would be another way to build up that episode to make it bigger than a regular weekly episodic show, but not a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. And
so I think that if you're not going to have Hardy debut as the Exalted One, which again contradicts my last statement, is that will AEW be so predictable to have Brody Lee come out then and be the Exalted One in Rochester? So to me, I could see Darby Allin as well from the standpoint he does have beef with Inner Circle. He's talented. He would be a perfect candidate for a blood and guts match as far as coffin drops and big spot potential goes.
Agreed.
But I don't know. To me, the safer bet is Darby Allin from the standpoint of that he's there. It really just depends on what is the plan for Matt Hardy. And I think that's what we're waiting on is if you don't see Matt Hardy debut in Rochester, I would find it hard to believe that he's not the guy for the blood and guts match.
Yeah, I mean, again, unless you are going the route of just continuing that build, it would seem like a long build if you're trying to save his debut for Double or Nothing, because that's 2.5 months away. That's a long time to try to.
You're better off putting him in now and building a storyline for Double or Nothing.
No, I agree. I'm just, I'm trying to. How am I going to try to phrase this? I don't know. I think it just makes more sense. I agree with it. I think it makes more sense to have him debut sooner than later because you've already started teasing it. So, I mean, 2.5 months is a long, and this is what I was going to phrase it as. 2.5 months is a long time. It could just go dry, leave people uninterested or not as interested. So I don't know. We will see. Again, to AEW's credit, it leaves us guessing. It makes us want to tune in next week. And
I would also say to Matt Hardy's credit.
Right.
Okay, because more of this is Matt Hardy than AEW. Matt Hardy has done a really good job since before he left WWE, keeping people on their toes.
Yeah.
Where am I going? And that talks about how great Matt Hardy is from the standpoint of element of surprise, cutting promos, character development. Matt Hardy's one of those guys who can reinvent himself. Maybe, again, we've talked about he's a little bit older. His wrestling may not be where it used to be, but this is really good on Matt Hardy's side of things too, of the ability to. I love his response to that Twitter. I love that because he not only is he thinking, he already has a plan. He already knows where he's going. We all know that, but he's so creative from the standpoint of that he's thought about who he would be in every single major promotion right now.
Right.
Think how crazy it is. Like, how many wrestlers do you know that would be like, hey, if I'm a free agent, let me put every single one of these on here and say that I could be a different persona in every single one.
Exactly.
Most of them would say, I'll take my persona to each one. But he's saying I could go to each and every one and be a different persona.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, man, the creativity, this guy, WWE missed out on him. They should have found a way to keep him happy, keep his storylines going. So when he was ready to retire from in-ring, they had that guy ready to go for storytelling, for creative writing, for things of that nature. So
right. All right. So couple other quick things. We'll recap NXT. Cole's going to kind of take the reins on that one because I watched 0 of NXT. I'll just be 100% honest. A couple of quick things I wanted to mention. So it looks like Over the Top Wrestling, whose their big main event match was going to be Moxley against David Starr. David Starr, if you're not aware of who he is, he's had a beef with an indirect beef, I'll say, with WWE because he's very pro-unionizing wrestling. WWE obviously is not. So WWE has recently reached out to its affiliates that they work with as far as on the independents and basically said, hey, we don't want you guys working with this guy. Over the Top Wrestling was one of them, I do believe. So it was interesting that they kept him on this card. Doesn't matter now because they've canceled it because of the coronavirus stuff. Let's see. I pulled up an article while we were talking. There's new speculation on WrestleMania 36 being held in the summer.
That's a bad call.
So and this is one thing I forgot to mention. Tampa City officials are actually meeting today to discuss cancellation or postponement of large events, which includes WrestleMania. So we'll know by the end of today what's happening with Mania. And then, so Alex McCarthy of TalkSport noted on his Twitter that WrestleMania might be moved to the summer. He was saying that June or July is one of WWE's contingency plans with the European travel ban, number of events shutting down. Obviously, NBA season's been outright suspended. I think he's correct. I just don't think it makes sense for Mania to run at this point. I don't think they should cancel altogether. With the travel ban at this point, I don't think they have a choice. What was the other thing here? So I mentioned that Davey Boy Smith was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It looks like his son, Davey Boy Smith Jr., or Davey Boy Smith Jr., sorry, guys, also known as Harry Smith, that he's going to be inducting his father. So I just saw that. And that looks to be it. So I'm going to do our little read plug thing, and then we'll recap NXT, and then we'll call it a morning. So you can check out the Going Broadway podcast with new shows every week on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts as well, except for this episode because I forgot to push the record buttons before we started. So you're only going to be able to catch this one on Facebook and YouTube. For those of you watching us live right now, all of our shows are archived, and you can go back and watch any one of them at any time on Facebook or on YouTube as well. We're at facebook.com/Going Broadway Podcast, and we're at goingbroadwaypodcast.com/YouTube. You can also download our free app. It's called Yo Radio. It can be downloaded through the App Store or Google Play. It's the most advanced user-driven radio streaming service on the market today. Everything you'd expect and more from the most full-featured platforms ever developed. You can listen to an endless genre of music, podcasts, including our show via the Lineup channel, sports, news, and radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's always 100% free. Again, it's yoradio.com. I'm sorry, it's Yo Radio app. You can also check it out by visiting yoradio.com. You can also check out our show on our platform at lineupmedia.fm. And I forgot to do our Lord Alfred Hayes soundbite. Oh, well, that's all right. Okay, NXT. So, again, I did not watch any of this. I will kind of give the reins to you. Oh, hang on. Breaking news. Not really. No, at least not wrestling related. So with that coronavirus stuff, they initially started with them canceling I think it was a Utah Jazz Sacramento Kings game because one of the Utah Jazz players tested positive for it. Apparently now a second Jazz player's tested positive for it as well. Donovan Mitchell. Anyway, not really a big deal. It's not wrestling related, so we'll keep going. All right. Let's take about 15 minutes and recap NXT, and then we'll call it a day. So, Cole, was this how was the show itself as a whole?
One, it was interesting because it was held at the Performance Center, and I didn't know what that was going to look like.
Right.
This is actually a really good episode of NXT, and I'm almost glad that it was at the Performance Center. It had a different vibe to it. It didn't feel so SmackDown Raw. In a sense that there was a rawness to this.
From a production standpoint, it felt
still had a good camera, good mic. For the most part, everything was still done from the production standpoint to a high level for USA Network. But from the standpoint of feel of the show,
did it have more of an indie feel to it?
Yes.
Okay.
It had actually the NXT feel to it before NXT was as big as it is right now.
I got you.
It's back to it was that rawness that got NXT so popular actually. And we'll get into more of that as we go through the card. So we talk about how we like how AEW starts off with a main match.
Yep.
NXT starts off with a great match. and it's the North American Championship match between Keith Lee and Cameron Grimes. I will say this. I see Keith Lee dropping the belt at TakeOver. Not
Really?
Because, and I'll get to it, why. Keith Lee's going to, this is my prediction, Keith Lee is going to get called up. It's going to happen. I when I say called up, he's going to go to Raw or SmackDown after Mania or TakeOver.
Whenever that might be.
Whenever that happens, he is going to go there, and this is how they're going to do it. Obviously, this was a great match. Cameron Grimes is great. All right, I'm a Keith Lee fan. I'm glad Keith Lee won. But Keith Lee obviously won this match. But afterwards, Damian Priest comes behind him, hits him with the nightstick, and Keith Lee drops face first to the ground, so he doesn't see who hits him. Damian Priest is just kind of standing there for a second. Dominik Dijakovic comes out, defends Keith Lee, runs Damian Priest off, but picks up the belt and is trying to help Keith Lee up to hand him the belt back. And Keith Lee thinks Dominik Dijakovic hit him, and he throws. I mean, this was impressive. He throws Dominik Dijakovic up for a spirit bomb and takes him straight to the mat, and then grabs the belt and walks out. And you could tell the crowd didn't even understand the storytelling. It was probably hard to read from a crowd perspective in-house, but from the TV aspect of watching it on TV, the announcers kind of helped narrate it, and I thought Ronaldo did a really good job of helping understand.
I love more Ronaldo.
I think he did a really good job of helping understand that Keith Lee didn't see Dominik Dijakovic or Damian Priest. He just got hit in the back of the head, and the only person that's in the ring is Dominik Dijakovic.
I'm just picturing Morrow going, like, trying to talk to Keith as if, like, he's talking to him from the announce booth. Keith, no! He didn't do it!
And so it was such good storytelling that I think TakeOver, you're going to see a Fatal 4 or Triple Threat match, and you're probably going to see Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and Damian Priest for sure. And I wouldn't mind seeing Cameron Grimes get thrown into that conversation again.
So you think he's going to lose the North American title without getting pinned?
Yes.
And I agree. I think from the creative standpoint, that's what's going to make the most sense to do.
I wouldn't be opposed to Damian Priest or Dijakovic holding it from the standpoint that they didn't beat Keith Lee for it.
Right.
Because, again, NXT, even though they're trying to build it as its own show, it still is a developmental program. They still are leaving most of the developmental guys on that program.
Right.
Therefore, I'm okay with the Dijakovic holding a belt as he improves. I'm okay with Damian Priest holding a belt as he improves. What I'm not okay with is having a guy like Keith Lee who should be in your main title picture or mid-card picture on Raw or SmackDown holding a belt on NXT.
Right.
And so I think he's got the call. He's one of the very few on NXT that's ready for a call-up, that deserves a call-up, and that could fit Raw or SmackDown. I mean, people chant his song and name everywhere he goes. So,
for sure. Absolutely.
Good match. It was a highlight of the night. The next one was the ladder match qualifier, one of two of the night for the women's #1 contender match at TakeOver. I was actually kind of shocked that Mia Yim won this match.
That's what I was going to ask, because I was surprised by that too. Did it make sense from, like, did they tell the story in such a way for it to make sense, or was it still a surprise?
So what happens is that Raquel actually gets involved in this match
during the match.
Yes.
Okay.
Distracts Mia Yim from getting her win, and Dakota Kai tries to roll her up and do a dirty pin, but the ref's still busy trying to throw Raquel out, and Raquel's like, no, she's pinning, and he's not even paying attention. So Dakota Kai then goes and like, ref, what's going on? He tells Raquel to leave. She starts to walk away, and when she turns around, she gets hit by Mia Yim's special move, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And Mia Yim gets the pin real quick and then gets beat up by Raquel. Now,
the protect your neck.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that shocked me is, so Mia Yim's in that match. Dakota Kai's not. They really have plans for Dakota Kai with this heel gimmick that she's doing. So then, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I don't know where they're going with her now. So that's kind of interesting. The match was decent. For the two that were in the ring. I'm glad Mia Yim got the win. I think out of the two, she should be in that ladder match as far as spots and things go for that. But it was good. Then we went to Kushida versus Raul Mendoza. I will jump ahead on this one, too.
Go for it.
So Kushida...
We've got like 7 minutes left.
Kushida beats Raul Mendoza. It was a classic Kushida's going to win match. But later on in the night, they tease this little promo where they're interviewing Mia Yim, and a car, like a SUV type car, races by, and Raul Mendoza gets put into a car with two masked wrestlers.
Huh.
So I don't know what they're going to do with Raul Mendoza, but they might be getting ready to push him in some kind of luchador kind of gimmick. I don't know. Interesting, because they haven't really used him, so they obviously think he's improved or he's getting better, and there's a plan for him.
For those of you that don't know, so I believe Raul Mendoza, I believe he was on AAA before he came to WWE. I think he made his debut in the Cruiserweight Classic a couple of years ago, or maybe, when was that, 2016, 2017?
Probably, yeah.
But he mostly wrestled on the Mexican indie circuit. I really Raul Mendoza is probably the one guy that I've taken notice of that they've not really given a whole lot of TV time to. I mean, because I think he's good in the ring. I think he's better than some of the other guys on the NXT roster that they've pushed. I've not seen him botch. I've not seen him. Let's put it this way. I think he can tell a good story in the ring. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where they go with this with him, because like I said, I think he's the one guy on the NXT roster that they've not given enough time to.
They definitely have used him as talent enhancement, and maybe WWE sees him as like a Cedric Alexander or some of those guys that they've called up that just kind of ends up falling flat. Good in the ring, but for some reason doesn't get over.
Right.
I don't know. But that was interesting. I jumped ahead a little bit on that just so I could explain what happened with Raw. Didn't really care. Don't know what they're doing with Kushida. It was a win match for him. It was just the build for him for something.
Maybe they'll throw him into the North American title picture.
Could eventually.
He deserves better than what they're giving him.
I could see Damian Priest winning it and being a heel and doing Kushida versus him.
Here's what I think they should do. And I think this would go over huge because they have history on, in New Japan and Ring of Honor. I think they need to move Ricochet over to NXT, and they need to have a Kushida Ricochet program. It doesn't have to be for a belt. They could just have you can just build off the history they have. So.
I like that idea. Don't think it'll happen. I think they have 100%. Plans for Ricochet going forward, but
I don't think it will either. But
Rhea comes out, kind of starts her little, going to Mania gimmick thing all over, every week. If you watched Raw, Rhea came out, punched Charlotte in the face, and walked away. So Charlotte came out, was talking all her trash. The crowd was against Charlotte. You don't go here, chance. Go back to Raw, chance. The whole nine. And so they do a little bit of a brawl. Charlotte leaves the ring, kind of exits the ring, but then pulls Rhea to the ring post, smacks her knee against the ring post several times, and then applies a figure four laylock on the ring post.
Yep.
Good little spot. It was, it did its purpose. Which then we get to, this is the part that I was talking about that I didn't really understand too much. The second women's qualifier match of the night was Tegan Nox versus Donna Purrazzo.
Whatever.
And I was like, okay, well, Donna Purrazzo's not going in the ladder match. Not going to happen. So Tegan Nox wins this match. I thought maybe when Tegan Nox came out first, it's like whoever she's going to fight is going to win with Dakota Kai coming out to at the match. And they were going to set up some big Dakota Kai versus Tegan Nox match at the takeover for the year.
Right.
The takeover of the year. Didn't happen. Tegan Nox gets this win. No interruptions, no nothing. She's in the ladders match. So that to me was kind of like a signifying the Dakota Kai Tegan Nox feud is over.
I don't know about that. They might have a spot in the match where Tegan Nox looks like she's going to win, but then Dakota Kai comes out and ruins it and just continue that feud.
Right. This was by far the worst match of the night from the standpoint of we all knew that Donna Purrazzo, I don't even care to know her name.
Well, it looks like it was a quick squash match almost.
It was really quick. I just wasn't a fan. I'm trying to get through it here. So then you have Undisputed Era come out to the ring. They're getting ready to cut a promo. They're doing their thing, and then Velveteen Dream's music hits, and he cuts a promo from the top of the thing.
Velveteen Dream probably has the most underrated theme
Yes.
/ entrance in all of WWE / NXT.
His promo during this thing was great because he talks about how this entire time his plan has been to get to Adam Cole. He could care less about Roderick Strong. He held up his tights that had Roderick Strong's family on it. He goes, Roderick Strong, they're just tights, man, with faces on it. It's not that big of a deal. He goes, I don't care about you, and if you thought I did, you're as stupid as you look. And just starts going in on Roderick Strong. But he said, ultimately, I want Adam Cole, and you are looking at the main event for TakeOver. I don't know if that was official or him just saying that that's what it was. But basically, we're being told it's going to be Velveteen versus Adam Cole at TakeOver. I love it. I think it's great. It was good storytelling. And then as soon as they're getting ready to go beat up on Velveteen, he goes, hold on. Because something's about to happen. Then snaps his finger and the Broserweight music hits. And so now you have Undisputed Era versus the Broserweights for the NXT Tag Team Champions championship match. Grizzled Young Veterans come out during that, try to interrupt it to I believe, try to help the Undisputed Era win that match. That's kind of how it was looking, but inevitably the Broserweights get the win. They kind of did some foolery to get Adam Cole and Roderick Strong removed from the match. So that was good. This is the part of the night that I was glad it was held at the Performance Center.
The brawl.
The Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano made this story relevant again. Okay, because I was kind of over it. I think I told you this a couple weeks ago. I'm kind of over the Gargano-Tommaso feud. But this actually got me back on it. So Tommaso Ciampa, when he enters the arena, he gets interviewed and asked, Johnny said you're going to do things on his terms. What are your thoughts on that? And he just says, on his terms, or how are you going to go about doing that? He goes, on his terms.
Right.
And just keeps walking in the ring. Comes out to the ring. He starts talking a little bit. Johnny interrupts him via video somewhere in the Performance Center and says, no, we're going to do it my way. Yada, yada, yada. Says, you don't know me, but I know you. And Tommaso just leaves the ring, goes exactly to where he's at. They start brawling. Tommaso pretty much has him beat for the most part of this, and they just start going to the Performance Center, throwing weights at mirrors. They threw one of them threw the other one through a glass window on a door, just destroying the Performance Center. I mean, just tearing the Performance Center apart. And it was good. And then they get up to the part right where Velveteen Dream was, where he did his little promo. They're up high. There's a table, an announce table down below. They tease several times of someone throwing the other one off of it. And finally, Tommaso Ciampa just takes him and Gargano off that platform onto a table, and that ends the night. And I just thought, man, that was a good spot. It did its purpose. It got me more interested into that storyline again, to the point that I think, man, they might have something up their sleeve for TakeOver. There might be more. Like, I thought there's nothing else that these two could do together with seeing their matches that they've had at TakeOvers before, matches of the year candidates. Like, I'm like, what else could these guys do? And then I watched that and I was like, oh, okay, they got more up their sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about Gargano and Ciampa is that they're probably the two best storytellers with, how they interact in the ring, how they interact out of the ring. And maybe that's why they put these two back together in a program, because they can continue to push the envelope. They can continue to not reinvent, but just come up with, like you said, different things. They have other tricks up their sleeve, and so
there's always something else to do. And before I forget, there's also a side note. Finn Balor got his passport, showed his passport in a promo, and he is going to be on NXT UK tonight, I believe.
Assuming there is an NXT UK.
Yes.
Although this has not affected the UK at this point, so
I had a hard time believing that they would promote it if there was even any speculation.
Agreed.
So he showed his passport, build up for a Walter, I believe what will be a Walter versus Finn Balor match at TakeOver. Shout out Finn Balor, rocking the shirt. And I'm excited for that match as well, because I think that has potential to be one of the matches of the night on TakeOver. So good promo cut there. But NXT, this was actually a really good episode, and I think, again, it had a lot to do with feeling like they could do more because they were in the Performance Center. They had more leeway with the arena, with how it was done. Small crowd, but it didn't feel small crowd compared to an NXT audience.
I read that it looked like that the Performance Center and the NXT crowd, like the Performance Center crowd, didn't look much smaller, if at all.
And maybe that was just good camera angles.
Could have been.
Because they didn't really turn the cameras to the whole arena a lot. They literally focused on the back wall, kind of how NXT used to do it. So it was a really good camera, at least camera-wise. They showed it in a way that they knew the crowd would be into it, so they didn't have to worry about crowd reactions.
Right.
Because they knew that they would be louder and more into it and more chants and stuff. But it didn't feel small.
Right.
And that's what I liked about it. It was a really good episode. I don't know if it ranked over, I would say, AEW's episode, even though it was lackluster compared to their other episodes. I still think that they were probably about even
Really?
this week. Just because NXT normally misses the mark on some spots. But this had a really good card on it. But I think the one women's ladder match really hurt it. Bad. It really killed the momentum.
It hurt the start to finish aspect of the program.
Well, they put it so late in the card, too. It would have made more sense to have the other women's match go longer, the Mia Yim versus Dakota Kai.
Right.
And put it deeper in the card and gotten that Tegan Nox one out of the way. Because the episode was going, and it would have been a really great build to it end with Gargano and Ciampa, and I just felt like that was a bad position on the card.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's just about going to do it for us today. I wanted to leave you with this. I pulled up a couple articles while we were wrapping up the NXT conversation. There are more sites and platforms that are picking up on this WrestleMania story being delayed to the summer. One story basically says that they think that we're definitely going to be looking at a summer WrestleMania. Another outlet's picked up that June or July is going to be their contingency plan, and it's basically pending the city of Tampa's meeting today, pending their decision. So it looks like, guys, we're either going to get a WrestleMania next month or in June or July, and my bet is June or July. So if that's the case, that sucks, but I mean, it is what it is. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to kind of sound like the guy at you talked to at Walgreens, but does anyone else ever get the whole be well kind of thing whenever you check out at Walgreens? I get it all the time. We have a Walgreens across the street from here, but they always say be well. But in all seriousness, guys, take care of yourselves, wash your hands, do what you normally do in the daily course of life. And, this is just my opinion, but wash your hands, bathe, shower, whatever. Take whatever measures you need to. But, again, I don't think this is any worse than a standard flu. Again, I'm just sharing my opinion.
Live your life.
Exactly. Live your life the best you can. Don't be worried about, a bug that is it's a virus that can and probably will pass, just like the flu would. So, again, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on Monday.
And so, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang!
This podcast was a presentation of LightUpMedia.fm.